You can be as optimistic as you possibly can be. And you're like, I'm coming into this thing with really pure intentions. This is going to work out and it's going to be awesome. Not everyone, and I'm telling you right now, not everyone operates the same level of integrity. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Founder Fires, where entrepreneurs step into the heat, face the challenges, and forge their own path to success. Here, we just don't talk about business. We ignite real conversations. We talk about strategy, resilience, and how to build business on your own terms. We bring you battle-tested insights from founders who've been through the fire, sharing their wins, lessons, and breakthroughs. Whether you're scaling, pivoting, or just getting started, this is where the ideas are sparked and legacies are built. So pull up a seat by the fire because your next big move starts here. In today's episode, we're actually going to be diving into one of the things that people don't talk about when you are starting a business, and that is partnerships. I have had the privilege of having some really awesome partners in the past, and I've also have the privilege of having some of the worst partnership relationships that blew up and ended up in court and ended up in a lot of money lost. And so I want to talk about some of those challenges and how carefully you need to consider all the details when you're choosing to do business with another individual. This is sparked from a recent partnership that imploded and ended up with me getting conned out of like a $2.6 million business and having to start over from scratch with nothing. All right. Now, the cool thing about that experience is that I built several businesses. The first business that I started took me maybe like 2 years to get it to 7 figures. The second business took us like 9 months, 12 months to get it to 7 figures. And then the third business took me 6 months to get it to 7 figures. All right. So each time I've had to do it, I've been able to do it faster. So I know a thing or two about partnerships, and it is so important that you pay very, very close attention to the people that you want to partner with and that you know them on a deep level. Or if you don't know them on the deep level and they bring real value to the table that you yourself could not bring on your own, you need some very, very clear contingencies inside of the contract you sign. There needs to be a very clear accountability, very clear back door where if shit hits the fan, you need to be able to get out of that damn agreement without the fear of litigation. It's so important. Like, you can go into a business relationship with all of the hopes and all of the you can be as optimistic as you possibly can be. And you're like, I'm coming into this thing with really pure intentions. This is going to work out and it's going to be awesome. Not everyone, and I'm telling you right now, not everyone operates the same level of integrity. For me, my first partnership that I had was great. We didn't even have an operating agreement in place. We were just such good friends. We decided, like, worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, we're going to dissolve it. Even if it does work out, like if we start making money, we're going to put a really clear agreement in place. We got into business on just a verbal agreement. And because of the integrity that everyone had, and there was a very clear delineation of what we brought to the table, we were able to work together and take that business to 7 figures in about 9 months, and then have a really good operating agreement in place and have a really functional partnership and change a lot of people's lives and have a really awesome impact. Now, the second contract that I got into, I thought I had put the agreements in place. And this was really like, for me, even as I look back at that experience, I operated from a place of more greed and pain than I did from a place of just kind of like really seeing the big picture and paying attention to some of the red flags. And the red flags, I mean, as soon as I got into that uh, partnership and we started doing business together, I saw so many red flags within the first week, and I should have just pulled the plug. I should have pulled the plug, but I was like, you know what? I could probably turn this thing around and we can get things to where we need it to be. And we did just that. Like in a very short period of time, I was able to get in there and really turn that business around. And in that 6 months of me being there, that company made more money in that 6 months than it did the previous 12 months combined. And we're able to verify that by bank statements. But the thing about getting into partnerships where it's not really clear what your roles are, that's where it starts to get muddy, right? So the clarity of supposed to just be a consultant and consulting and things like that. But there wasn't really clearly defined scopes. There wasn't really clearly defined KPIs, roles and responsibilities and things like that. And because of that, when the other party got greedy and eventually cut me out of the deal, that business, when I left, imploded. And this is the important thing that you have to be really understand is you got to know the value that you bring, but you also have to be realistic about the value that you don't bring and also have options, right? It's not my first rodeo. So when I was getting cut out and the guy was like wanting to push me out of that company and push me out of it, I didn't put up any fight. I was like, all right, cool. You can have it. You can run it. You do whatever the hell you want. And then I was already like planning out my next project, and the next company was like ready to like launch it. And so I was like, all right, cool. Willing to walk away from it. But here's where things start to go south. Like 3-4 months later, after I walk away from that engagement, leaving a lot of money on the table. I walk away from the engagement. 4 months later, I get slapped. I get served letters. The dudes wanted to sue me, and it was just an absolute shit show. So going back and reflecting on that entire situation, I was like, there's a lot of things I could have done to completely avoid the entire situation. And there are things that I consider a lot more deeply before I get into any kind of partnership with anyone. One, I want to consider their core values. Who are they at their core? What do they stand for? And then how do they treat the people around them? How do they talk about other people? And then what are other people saying about them that have had some type of interaction with them? Had I just done a little due diligence and dug into the background of this guy, I would have never gone into business with him. All right. It would have been very, very clear. And what's interesting is that my wife had heard one conversation that I had between me and this other guy, or me and this other person, that she just heard the conversation on speaker, and she was just like, I don't feel good about that. You shouldn't do that. So I probably should have listened, because there was a red flag, and I probably should have been asked more questions and just be curious as to why. But that was a really painful lesson, because that entire thing cost me a lot of money and almost put us out of business. Right? Like almost put us out of business. We're redlining for a long time. It was a painful process. It was a painful experience that very few people can actually appreciate, how much your resilience and your resolve gets tested when you're trying to build a company, when you're hiring people, when you're dealing with employees and you're dealing with customers and you're dealing with product issues. Doing all of that while having a family and dealing with court and dealing with legal and dealing with all of that bullshit, it was tough. So for me, I ask a lot of questions before I get into any kind of partnership. I want to know what the roles are. I want to know what the expectations are. I want to know what they're bringing to the table and how does that differ from what I'm bringing to the table. Because if I'm getting into a partnership with someone and we both bring the same things to the table, I'm like, dude, I could just do this without you. Like you have the same skill sets. Like we don't need to be in business together. Or if I start asking about the people that have worked with this person before and there's a consistent pattern of what people are saying about the person, then I'm like, our values don't align. And then also pay attention to how they talk about other people, right? What should have been a red flag is when this person that ended up going into business with, what should have been a red flag is when they initially mentioned, they were like, you're helping your clients be successful. And I've seen some of your clients and some of them are a bunch of idiots. I don't understand how you're helping them make as much money as they're making inside of their business. That's just such a judgmental statement to say. Like, I cannot believe that I did not really cue into what they were really saying. I wasn't really paying close attention. But to say that about people that you don't know immediately should have been a red flag. And then if I would have done a little bit digging and asked around, right? So when I let a few people that were close to me know about the litigation and the legal and the trials and stuff that we're going through behind the scenes, and then they were like, "Yeah, I heard nothing but terrible things about this person." All right, and I dug a little bit deeper, and it became very clear that I was conned and sold a bill of goods with that had no real value. So and that was a very painful lesson to learn, right? And as you go through those things, like that's a situation that could have easily derailed me, and it almost did, right? It put a lot of pressure on a lot of different things, and it was just done out of spite, right? Which is what people who are unwilling to take full accountability do when they're forced to face the mirror and see their own shortcomings, right? And if you're not willing to take accountability and take full ownership of your own shit, then that becomes a problem. And that was another red flag, right? Early on, as I was working with this person, I saw them blame people on their team for not reaching goals, but also not put in any effort to train, to support, to even really be available for the team. Right? If you wanted to get a meeting, you had to jump through all these hoops to get onto their calendar. And it's like, dude, there's only like 10 people on the team. Like there should not be any bureaucracy to get on the account for the team to get some time with you. So that was another red flag. And then challenges that the clients were having, complaints that the clients were having. And that was there were so many red flags as I reflect and I take note. I'm like, wow, I should have done way more due diligence. I should have waited a little bit longer and let things kind of play out and actually like set it up in a way where it's like, hey, we'll try this for 30 days. And if there's any issues or any red flags, we're going to pull the cord. That's what I should have done. Right. And then the other side was I was so used to having partners. One of my mentors actually called me out on this when I started working with him. He was like, Iggy, why don't you think you can just do this on your own? Right? Because I was used to having partners. And to be honest, I didn't want to have to figure out the whole thing on my own. I like working within a team and I like working with good people and making life a little bit easier for myself. So he called me out on it. It was like, you could have avoided this entire situation if you were just willing to endure some turbulence as you figured out how to run that business on your own. Because my previous partners are awesome. And they were like, hey, we have our other businesses taking off and it's taking more of our time. And we just want to like be able to dissolve our interests. Like dissolving that partnership was so easy. It was so easy. And it speaks volumes to the types of individuals they were. And we are still good friends to this day and we do business together. I refer them a ton of business and they refer business to me, and they're even clients, and they're using one of our products. Actually, they're using two of our products and services. But that's the beauty of when you work with genuinely good people who are world class at what they do, who have similar values and you're aligned in the vision and how you want to represent yourself and your value of relationships. Like when you're aligned on that, things work out great. Knowing what I know now, I would just never go into a partnership blind unless I just know. I mean, I would just never go into a partnership blind, right? I would still be willing to go into an agreement, like a verbal agreement, start a working partnership with on a verbal agreement if I know the person really, really well. Only if I know the person really, really well and we've worked together for a long period of time. Hence why the first partnership went really well. Hence why the second partnership fell through the bottom. Everything fell through the bottom of the floor, and it went really bad, really fast. And why this third partnership that I'm in is going so much better than even the first one is because the people that I'm working with, I know very, very well. We have similar values. We think very similarly, but we bring different skill sets to the table. So there's a very clear lane. This is what you do. This is what I do. These are things that we'll do together and how we collaborate. We go execute. And it's a very good working relationships. And that can only be accomplished when you take your time to get to really know someone before you get into a business relationship with them. Because a business relationship, it's very hard to get out of if you don't have a very clear exit strategy, if you don't have very clear stipulations that prevents them from being able to pursue litigation just because they got their feelings hurt and they have an inability to take any kind of accountability. All right. So it's important that you just consider those things. That's one of the lessons that I've had to learn. And ultimately it shaped me, helped me become a better leader. I've had to really look at myself in the mirror and look at the gaps and really work intentionally on just kind of filling in the gaps, surrounding myself with much better entrepreneurs and being more methodical with the decisions that I make, because I'm like, I refuse to do business with someone and open myself up for litigation ever again. Just simple as that. I refuse to do that. So that's been a learning lesson. So for those of us who are listening, just be careful of the partnerships that you're getting into. Do due diligence. Ask the hard questions. Ask the hard questions and leave very, very clear expectations in the contracts and have very clear, give both parties a very clear way out that allows it to be a clean break and allows both parties to go out and do their own things without any fear of looking over their shoulders. So that's really, really important for you to consider as you're building your business, or considering if you're going to be a solo founder, or if you're looking for co-founders and people that you want to collaborate with. Just be very clear on what the roles and responsibilities are. Be very clear on the skill sets that are being brought to the table, and to be very clear on who you're doing business with. Talk to the people around them. Find out what people are saying. Talk to people that have worked with them in the past, especially those where that relationship didn't work out well. If you talk to anyone that worked with me in the past and we had to split ways, they'll probably tell you that it was a really great, we had a great time. Like we just parted ways because it was just going in different directions. Like my first partners, when we dissolved the business, like you can talk to them, like, how was it working with Iggy? And they're going to tell you it was great, because I'm going to say the same thing about them. You can even talk to clients who were disgruntled and stopped working with us in the past, and they'd still tell you it's worth working with us. We've had people who canceled their programs, who left the program, who canceled their service and stopped working with us, who still refer people to us because of the way that we took care of them, because of the way that we show up, because of the values and the level of integrity that we operate with. And you want to make sure if you're going to get into a partnership, you have to be getting into bed with someone who has similar values, whose core values are in alignment, your vision are in alignment, and you bring different skill sets to the table. You have very clear roles and responsibilities, and you have a very clear way to pull the cord if it's not going the way either party wanted. You have to know how you're going to win, and how you're going to win in this engagement also has to help the other person win in the engagement, right? I call it your greed being in alignment. All right. And making sure it's truly a win-win-win for everyone involved. It's a win for you guys doing business together. It's a win for the people that you're going to be serving as a result of you guys doing business together. And a win for the people that those people are going to be serving as a result of doing business with you. So that's why I say it's got to be a win-win-win, right? It's going to be a win for everyone involved. And if at any point it becomes clear that it's not a win for you, or you're winning at their cost, or they're winning at your cost, you got to have a really clear conversation and get out of that engagement. All right. But before you get into the engagement, you got to put in those stipulations. And if you're in an engagement now that you really don't like, and you're like, how do I get out of it? Have the conversations and make an amendment to the contract and make it very clear make it easy for both parties to go to solve it if need be. Hope you found it helpful. Till next time, stay calm, change lives, and have business on your terms. Peace.